Go west, young man. Go west. Hey, you know me, it's Matt Swerk with the Legacy Star Team powered by Keller Williams. I am a local real estate expert right here in Massachusetts. We know you've been coming to the channel. We know all you got to do is subscribe, hit the like button, and then you're going to get notified when we make new videos. So we're getting really busy with all the people reaching out with all the questions. We love it. Very simple. However you reach out, we're going to get back to you with answers. When it comes to Massachusetts, we've always got your back. All right, so today, yes, we're talking about the West. We're not talking West Coast. We're talking the western part about Massachusetts. So this is an interesting subject for me to talk about. I was telling Tyler that because I'm a city kid, I grew up in Quincy, which is just south of Boston. We have our own little nucleus there. Everything is like a 10-minute radius to get to it. So if someone said, hey, do you want to go to Western Mass? I would think, wow, like I don't want to go way out to Framingham. Now, if you don't know what that is, if you do driving directions from Quincy to Framingham, really short distance, and then there's the whole rest of the state. So we had a really strange perception problem as far as what Western Mass was. So we didn't spend a lot of time there. Like I said, I kind of stayed in my city for a long time, and then I flew the coop. So it's interesting because I haven't been able to spend a lot of time, or I haven't spent a lot of time in Western Massachusetts, except for the past couple of years. We've taken some trips out there, and what a pleasant surprise. The first thing I like to talk about, and I did this as a kid, and I didn't play basketball, so it's kind of a weird thing. But the Basketball Hall of Fame is actually out in Springfield, Massachusetts, and it was from James Naismith was the inventor of basketball, and that's why we have the Basketball Hall of Fame. And when we think Western Mass, Springfield is the biggest city out there. It's the third largest city in the state behind Boston and then Worcester, and then you have Springfield. However, when I think Western Mass, I think of all the cute towns and the little villages that are there. There's so many towns that are out there. Some of the bigger ones you have like Chicopee, you have Pittsfield, Westfield, Holyoke, Agawam. Agawam's an awesome place that's got Six Flags. I mean, there's so many different communities out there. But what I wanted to just kind of talk about was what are some of the pros and cons of living in the western part of the state, right? I think, starting off, one of the big advantages, and this really holds true for our state in general, medical services. We have a lot of, we're kind of fifth in the nation as far as healthcare. We're probably a little bit higher than that, actually. And so there's a lot of hospitals and medical facilities around Boston itself. Springfield has a ton of them as well. So as far as quality health care, living out in the western part of the state, like you absolutely have it. And I'm fixing my cuff here, sorry. So I won't do that anymore, I'm distracted. I should have got dressed properly today. I apologize. So I think that's a big thing is that, the access to local health care, absolutely great out there. That also helps as far as jobs in that health sector, or in that sector as well, being the health care. The other thing is, which is typical of Massachusetts and also holds true for the western part of the state, education, right? There is about 15 higher education institutions all around the Springfield area. So it's a great place as far as going out there, for education. In Springfield itself, there's about 46% of the people have a bachelor's degree. So that's pretty high for being there. And it's higher than the national average of just 33% of people having a bachelor's degree. So not that you have to go to college to be successful in life. So the other thing I would say as far as Western Massachusetts is it's breathtaking. Right. So, we're always talking about Boston and the Cape and these different areas. We have a lot of great architecture and things from being so old as far as the birthplace of the nation. So there's tons and tons of history. However, getting out towards the western part of the state, it is absolutely, absolutely beautiful. It's well known for the foliage season. That's a great thing as far as, I know we're not talking about like why you should move to Massachusetts, but we have some of the best foliage in the country. And some people don't even have foliage, like what's that? So definitely check out what foliage is. It's a huge tourist attraction, right? Like there's a lot of money that gets invested for people coming out to look at leaves, which is a weird thing. We call them leaf peepers around here. So but it's you can go all over the place. But Western Mass is gorgeous because there's a lot of rolling hills. The Berkshires are out there. You have Tanglewood, which is this beautiful performance center that a lot of people go out there and play. The Boston Symphony's out there. I think James Taylor, Livingston Taylor plays out there. They do a lot. There's a lot of festivals that are out there. So all the quaint little historic places that are there and kind of that old school feel of New England, you definitely get it out there. This one I'm going to kind of put this in the middle because I was looking at this and I was feeling, because of me growing up so close to the biggest city in Massachusetts, I looked at it as kind of a negative being so far away, right? Because I think Springfield to Boston is probably, I would say, an hour and a half, maybe 2 hours. It's about 2 hours because I'm thinking where I used to live and where we used to commute. So it's quite a ways out there. So if you're commuting into the city, it's a long ride. However, I'm going to say as a positive is where it's located because you can easily get up into Vermont and into Connecticut and New York as well. So Route 91 runs straight through the state. So that's really easy access as far as looking to get out to the western part of Massachusetts. So accessibility, it's a positive and it's a negative depending on what your perception is and what you're going to be doing and where you're going. But it's very, very peaceful out there. I feel like I've stepped back in time when I'm out there just because of, like I said, just kind of these quaint little places, lots and lots of yard sale, in the summertime it's through some of the communities, but you can just get lost driving around or hiking or doing anything like that. So there's some awesome reasons to move out to Western Mass. Some of the cons I would say is that, and this holds true as far as anywhere in Massachusetts, the cost is high, right? Even though it's out in the western part of the state, and you would think as you get away from Boston, prices, everything's going to go down. Well, it holds true. I mean, we're expensive, right? My wife gets upset when I say that, but it is what it is. Like the cost of living is high here. We actually had a gentleman that reached out to us from Poland asking some information about what the cost of living was like. Had a lot of questions, and he decided not to move here because he was really afraid of what the cost of living was going to be. So he turned down his job opportunity. So I thought that was sad because we want to have more people come here, right? We love it here, so we want you to come visit us, and we want you to come buy a house. We want you to rent and get some clams, right? Some fried clams. That was not part of the script. I threw it in there. There is no script. So I would say the cost of living is definitely going to, the housing prices are not as high, in and around Boston, but it's still pretty expensive to live here in Massachusetts. The other thing I would say is that the weather, right? So with it being more inland, that belt of the jet stream that comes, they get hammered pretty hard out there, right? Like I think we get it bad where we are, but Western Mass gets hit pretty bad. So if you're not a fan of cold weather, if you're not a fan of snow, your blood will acclimate, right? Like you'll get used to it, but it takes a little bit of time. And then as you live here for a long time, you're like, I'm done with this. I'm moving to Florida. That's where we all want to go. We just all want to go to Florida to get rid of it. I don't know what it is. I mean, like I know the Carolinas are like everyone loves that, but for some reason we're like, we have to go to Florida. That's the only escape from Massachusetts is Florida. Never mind the Caribbean or anything like that. So stop the tangent. We're going to go. So the weather out there, that's definitely a negative as well. The job markets, that's touch and go, right? Because it depends on what industry you're in. There's a lot of blue collar jobs out there. So, but again, the institutions and the medical, those fields are thriving. So there might be some challenges as far as different types of work. So I would say the job market could be a little bit of a negative. I don't want to get any hate mail. It is what it is. But overall, it's really just like a lot of the communities in Massachusetts. You're going to have some good, you're going to have some bad. It really depends on what you're looking for, right? But it's really like the people out there, very friendly, very community focused, just kind of like I said, has that old school feel. All right, so that was a little bit of talk about Western Massachusetts. If you have any questions at all about, so let's just stop again and say. All right, so that's just a little bit about So that's a little bit about Western Massachusetts, some pros, some cons, some of the things out there that are pretty cool to do. Listen, remember, you have questions, we have answers, whether you're coming to move here, just to visit, you need a place to rent. All you need to do is send us an email, send us a text, pick up the phone. You have to make the phone call. You can send us a messenger on Facebook, and soon you'll be able to do a Calendly link if you have specific questions. So remember, when it comes to Massachusetts, we've always got your back.